Hello and thank you for joining us. This week on Out Motorsports, we're doing something a little bit different. I am driving an Audi E-Tron, which is the brand's current new fully electric SUV, and it has been provided to us through a company called Steer. Now, Steer is an electric vehicle subscription service. They are a startup based out of Washington, D.C., currently only serving the D.C. region, and they offer a variety of hybrid, plug-in electric, and fully electric vehicles available on a monthly subscription basis to folks in the DC area. They have both more mainstream tiers and also premium tiers of vehicles. So in an effort to test out how their service really works on a day-to-day basis, they put me in this Audi E-Tron for about 4 days. I've written a little introduction to Steer EV on outmotorsports.com, and that'll be linked in the description below. However, this particular video is meant more to talk about the Audi E-Tron than anything else. I will do a follow-up on Steer and their model and how I think everything is working as a takeaway after I give the Audi back. So with that said, on to the Audi. This E-Tron is a large-ish mid-size crossover. It kind of slots between the Q5 and the Q7, which are their gas crossovers, as far as size is concerned. And it competes against other full EV crossovers like the Tesla Model X, like the Jaguar I-Pace. And truthfully, if you ignore the price point, size-wise, it's probably going to compete against the Ford Mustang Mach-E when that is released. So size-wise, that's about where it is. Like I said, it's a full electric. So highlight-wise, this is a very nice car. It's very substantial. All of the materials in here are very, very nice. A lot of leather. There's some matte finished wood trim on the dashboard. It's very well screwed together, at least it feels that way. It feels very technology forward. I find it to be a little technology heavy, but definitely projects a future-facing image if that's something that you're really looking for in an EV. It drives down the road really well. It's very solid. It's definitely more substantial feeling than some of the more entry-level vehicles like the Chevy Bolt, the BMW i3. Obviously, different price point, different class of vehicle, but it certainly feels like it's worth the money that you're going to pay for it. As far as speed, Audi claims it will do 0 to 60 in about 5.7 seconds. I have no reason to doubt them on that, but it doesn't really feel fast. It's quick, but it doesn't feel fast, and there's a difference. It's not a bad thing. The other thing, I mentioned this feels very solid. It's very heavy. That's part of how they get it that way. A lot of electric cars are very heavy. This Audi weighs about 5,700 pounds, which is substantial for a mid-size crossover. And then the final perk of this car is just how quiet it is inside. With any EV, you're going to get that because you have no combustion engine making any sort of noise. You have no exhaust, no intake. But Audi's really done a good job keeping things quiet, making this feel like really the luxury vehicle it's intended to be. So definitely a nice place to spend time. Everything is intuitive enough, and I have enjoyed driving it. And of course, with all of the perks of driving this Audi E-Tron, there are some downsides and some difficulties that I've faced, the biggest one being charging the car. It was delivered to me with about half of a charge, and I didn't need to charge it the whole time I had it, but I figured I should for the sake of learning what this whole experience would be like. And holy cow, the charging experience is not good. This is not an Audi problem, this is an EV problem for any brand that isn't Tesla. The thing with Tesla is they're kind of like Apple in that they have created this world where they control every aspect of what you have to do. And that includes the charging experience. So for a Tesla owner, you just go to the supercharger station. It's easy to Google, it's easy to find where they are. With Audi and with all these other EV brands, they have level 1, level 2, level 3 charging that will charge the vehicle at different speeds. Level 3 is obviously the fastest. Level 1 and level 2 have different standards. Level 3 is still open for interpretation. Regardless, my first charging experience, I went to a parking garage got a cup of coffee and did some work for about an hour, and I came back outside and the vehicle had added 12 miles of range. That is obviously not going to cut it. For my second charging attempt the following day, I looked up stations by Electrify America. That is a company that is partnered with Volkswagen and Audi to provide charging stations both in cities and also along highway routes for any brand of EV. So they've got this great partnership with Audi. I'm driving an Audi, this should all be simple. So I go to Target, and sure enough, there's an Electrify America station with 6 different chargers, 6 different parking spots, and there's no cars there, so that's great. So I pick my spot, I pull in, and the first station I went to, the credit card reader was down. No big deal, that happens, so I moved the car to the next spot. None of the chargers would connect to the car and allow the car to start charging. I was just getting error message after error message after error message. So I called the Electrify America support line that's a sticker on all the machines, and after 25 minutes of me standing in 30-35 degree weather, we finally got this car to start taking a charge from the cord. Now, once it all hooked up, I did get the full level 2, level 3 experience, which can shove juice into the Audi very, very quickly. Audi claims the most it will do is 50 miles in 10 minutes. I think I was getting close to that maximum state of charge because I was in the store for about 25 minutes and I went from 26% to 86%. So the experience was great, and it was easy once we got the machine to work. That just took quite a long time, and I could see if I was a parent with some young kids, if I had a bunch of errands I was trying to run, if I was more pressed for time, this would have been really annoying, more annoying than it was just to me standing there with, you know, not a lot going on in my evening. Obviously, the solution to this is to charge at home overnight. That makes things really simple. Well, for those of us that live in apartments and condos, we don't have abilities to charge in a lot of cases. My building is one of those. We have no electric chargers, there's nowhere to plug one in, and, you know, if I could ask management now about installing one, it certainly wouldn't happen while I had this vehicle. So, public charging, still a challenge. I would assume the charging stations along highway routes are perhaps a little better maintained or cared for with a sense of urgency, but it was really difficult and kind of disappointing to deal with the charging experience. And then the other thing that I've just been dealing with, and it's kind of a bummer given the reputation of Volkswagen and Audi products in decades past, where, you know, they're great, but they have quirks. Like you hear this reputation, and the people that own Volkswagens and Audis adore them. They are good to drive, they are fun. The culture that the company has created as far as the type of people that buy their vehicles and the type of vehicles that they sell is great. But with this, you know, electronic gremlin glitch sort of reputation they've developed, this E-Tron is no exception to that rule. So this vehicle only has 1,500 miles on it, and it was delivered to me with the SOS emergency calling inactive for some reason. It needs to go to the dealer for service, it tells me, which is not awful, but it requires that I dismiss the message every time I start the car. Another issue has been with the parking sensors. They are deciding to turn on and off at random at slow speeds in traffic, which is about the last time you need a series of beeps informing you that, hey, maybe you're gonna hit something. So that's been kind of frustrating. The navigation system seems to be changing from 2D to 3D mapping on its own. There's just little quirks like that where I'd be pretty frustrated if this was my own personal brand new $75,000 electric crossover. It's absolutely cool to drive. There you go. There's a beep. There's no risk of me hitting anything. I was barely moving and it went off. It's definitely a very cool car. Everyone I've shown it to has really thought it was neat. When the gentleman from Steer dropped it off, he did say, oh, this is the one that makes those George Jetsons noises in the parking lot. And it's interesting, Audi has installed a speaker below the car or somewhere that will make these little noises in reverse or drive if you're going at parking lot speeds, so that any pedestrians walking will hear you approaching, because the car obviously doesn't make typical noises that you'd expect. And so with that, that's my hot take on the 2020 Audi E-Tron, Audi's fully electric crossover. Thanks for coming along for the ride, and as always, if you want to see what LGBT folks are doing with cars both on the street and on the track, please do follow us on Facebook and Instagram, and give us a follow at outmotorsports.com. Thanks so much, and we'll see you next time.